and welcome to the Mayor's Commission for Citizens with Disabilities meeting. It's August 22nd. I'd like to welcome you all. My name is Mike Masker. I'm the chair of the Mayor's Commission. And I always like to get us kicked off with just a reminder of why we're here. So the mission of our commission is to promote quality of life, accessibility, and equity in all aspects related to the City of Omaha on behalf of and in cooperation with citizens of Omaha who experience disabilities. Some of the things that we're called to do, we are here to advise the mayor, the city council, city department heads, and other City of Omaha personnel on issues of access, representation, employment, housing, and quality of life affecting city citizens with disabilities and their respective families. We're also here to serve as a resource for Omaha citizens with disabilities and their families to express concerns and resolutions regarding issues affecting them. One recent issue that was brought to my attention that I'm trying to get an answer, or at least start a conversation, is the large doors to the entrance at Lawrence and Gardens. We had a concerned citizen whose mother is in a wheelchair just relay a concern that it's very difficult to get in and out of the building, and some of the volunteers have also shared that concern. So that's one thing that has been brought to our attention that I'm working on, and while it might seem to some a minor issue, obviously if you have a mobility impairment, that's a huge issue. So we want to try to work with them to see if there are good resolutions or solutions to that issue. So at any rate, I'd like to give our members an opportunity to introduce themselves, and we'll get things rolling. I'd like to introduce Joel Cook, who's a new member with us, and I'd like to welcome Joel.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Joel Cook, and like you said, I'm a new member to the commission, and I represent people with physical disabilities and mobility impairments, and look forward to serving. And
Joel, you want to share maybe a little bit about what you're doing from a career standpoint or a work standpoint, and how you represent persons with disabilities?
Sure. Well, I've recently started my own accessibility consulting company called the Rolling Plains, and I've reached out to the City of Omaha and various other groups to see what I can do to just kind of give my experiences as an individual with a disability, and any experience that I can share, and what we can do to improve accessibility.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. And it's obviously one of the reasons we really appreciate having you on our commission to bring that real life experience for us. So thanks, Joel, and welcome.
Yep, thank you.
And I'm next. Okay. My name is Mark Smith. First and foremost, I'm the older brother to and father of young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm here representing them and the community of folks with that condition. In my work, I work at the Monroe Meyer Institute for Genetics and Rehabilitation at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. I serve as a faculty member in our University Center on Disabilities. That work takes us everywhere from providing technical assistance to policymakers, to providing direct services. But our primary mission is training and building the workforce of individuals who work with our citizens with disabilities here in the Omaha area and across the state. So, and I also want to say welcome to Joel.
I'll dovetail off of how Mark introduced himself. I'm Wendy Hamilton, and first and foremost, I'm the daughter of a parent with an autism spectrum disorder. So I'm honored to serve on the commission representing adults with autism. I also am an individual with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, so learning more about that and advocating as I go.
Hi, my name's Ed Armstrong. I represent persons with physical disabilities. I work at QLI, which is a post-hospital rehabilitation centre for persons with brain and spinal cord injury, and I'm the adaptive sports and recreation specialist there.
And we can't miss out on saying hi to Annie McBride, and you know, she's over there fast and furiously interpreting for you know, for persons that may either have that are either deaf or hard of hearing, or use sign language to communicate. So welcome, Annie. Thanks for being a part of our team. So again, my name's Mike Masker. My paying job is at the CHI Health Emmanuel Rehabilitation Institute, where I work to help advocate for the needs of persons with physical disabilities. So glad to be here and be a part of this team. We haven't met for a while, so all of you dedicated fans out there, our last meeting that was televised, I think, was back in May, and we had a planning meeting in June. We took the month of July off because that's kind of how us bigwigs in volunteer commissions do. And at any rate, in our planning meeting, there was a number of things we discussed, but one of the projects that we'd really like to take on, in order to really make our commission more visible, but also make the concerns and the needs of persons in the community with disabilities more visible, is to take our show on the road. We've talked about this for probably the last, I suppose, 6 to 8 months. And so we're going to try to get something put together in the next few months to take our show to UNO, where they have facilities to be able to provide the audio and visual that we need and record the meeting. But we'd really like to reach out to students in the community around UNO to attend the meeting and really have more of an interactive and a back and forth type of meeting. So that's definitely one thing that's on the agenda as far as our, I guess what we'd say, old business. We did have a pre-meeting, which we do every time we meet. So we met from 3 to 3:30 and discussed our potential off-site meeting. No other old issues to discuss. We had a quorum. Did not have any meetings to review or minutes to review. So all of kind of our old business has been taken care of. One thing we like to do with our meetings, as you guys are well aware, is bring some education and information from the community, either persons that serve a disability or additional information on disability awareness. And I'd like to invite Jim Fisher to join us. Jim is with the Nebraska Ataxia Society. Welcome, Jim.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I think it's interesting that you want other people to see the process. I'm interested in the process. I might have just ran into you, Mike, over at, I was at the Aquatic Center, and I go there 4 times a week for water therapy.
Nice.
And it works really well for me, as I'll explain some of the symptoms of ataxia. As you notice, Annie's probably keeping up with me because my speech is a little bit slurred. It's slowed, and this is just the beginnings. You never know when the onset's going to occur. And thanks to you, Sammy, for setting me up here. I mean, this is pretty cool. I love technology. I've been teaching, well, I taught for 27 years before I had to go on disability. I know I don't look that old, but I'm older than you think. So, ataxia, what is it, and why did we start Nebraska Ataxia? Why is it all over Facebook? Why hasn't it been here before? You know, where has it been? You know, that's a good question too. So I can answer any and all questions about the disease, but let me try to answer some questions that you might have ahead of time first. Ataxia is twofold. It's actually used to describe some of the symptoms of some of the mobility disorders. I just left, like I said, the Aquatic Center, and there's quite a few cerebral palsy people in the water, whether they come down with the electric chair or whether they come in with...
We prefer to call that an electric lift.
Yeah, electric lift. Thank you for that correction.
The electric chair, I'm like, electric
Sorry,
chair in
Mike,
the Aquatic
yeah.
Center. I'm like, we're good people at Emmanuel. We really are not interested
Let's
in...
take that off the record.
We'll
and,
just, okay, Chris in the back, can you scratch that from the video? So,
okay.
Carry on, Jim. Sorry, I
So-
couldn't pass that up.
Some of the other symptoms, though, basically they occur like in ALS, cerebral palsy, MS people. We have symptoms of, first of all, like gait. That started when I was 13. That's where you drag your foot. You could trip over the basketball line, you know, because you're dragging your foot. That started for me, my older brother, and my little sister when we were 13. Just as you go through puberty, is when our autosomal recessive ataxia started. That's my kind. Actually, that's all I know about mine. I don't have a name for it, so we're going to call it Fisher ataxia. My dad's a retired pediatrician, and he thinks it's our ataxia is a new mutation. You see, my parents both are totally normal. There's no physical abnormalities within them. So they met and they carried the gene, but they didn't know it. So each child that they had a 1 in 4 chance of receiving the disease. I have progressed the worst. My older brother is still walking, but barely. He's just the best fighter out of all 7 of us kids. My little sister has a walker. I went from a walker and taught for a year, and then I went to last year. I had a wheelchair the first quarter of school, and then after the appeal, I was able to have insurance pay for the scooter, which was phenomenal and helped me keep my job. I have an adaptive van and so on, but I don't want to get too off track on my story. Some more symptoms of ataxia include like you can't really, your coordination is bad. So as I was teaching my math, they couldn't really read the number 2 and the number 3 because my hand coordination was bad. Well, that threw off all my mathematics. I mean, so it was horrible. But not only that, I just couldn't hold the pen anymore. I also developed tremors when I get nervous. It's a degenerative neurological disorder. It's basically your nerves are degenerating. So if you don't know the onset, well, the onset became really bad for me 35 years later after it started. Well, it could have been 10 years after it started. So ataxia has been kind of like we talked about, Mark, it's been put aside. It's not as common as like the Parkinson's, you know, the Michael J. Fox has that, but he has tremors, and I have tremors. So symptomatically, we should be looking into this disease quite a bit more because maybe it can enlighten all the other diseases. Some other symptoms, I have zero balance. Okay, I can't walk from here to here because there's nothing to grab onto. If I grab this, this is going to fall. So I have to have something to hold on to. So my walls at my house are filthy because I'm always just touching something to walk, but not anymore. I had an actual fundraiser for myself at my school, and the Creighton Prep community was so incredibly responsive. And let's just say we raised a lot more than we thought we would, so I can get adaptions to my house, ADA bathroom. You want to make your house ADA compatible. I have the only probably heated ramp and driveway in the Midwest. I have no snow. When the snow falls, it will melt because if I slip, I will fall. Ataxia patients usually fall at least once a day. We know how to fall, my brother and sister and I. I mean, you just go with the fall. You know, like when I first started with the wheelchair fell back because the ramp was too steep going up on the sidewalk, and this was at a hospital. So I fell back from the wheelchair, and since I was a wrestler, I just rolled with it, and that was fine. But it's difficult with all of these symptoms. Let me see if I left anything out. I have numbness. I've had pressure wounds. I've had immunodeficiency problems. I have rheumatoid arthritis. My little sister's had MRSA, so we think that there's some kind of connection there in the mutation. I don't want to get into too much detail with, and my brother also got an infection after surgery on his back. But basically, let me put it in a nutshell. When I describe ataxia to people, I say, okay, you have the cerebellum, which is basically this, you have 3 lobes of the brain. The left lobe, the right lobe, and the cerebellum in the middle. Well, do not take for granted when you walk out of this room that your leg is responding from a message from your cerebellum that your mind gave it to move. And then that message told the back to move the leg. Well, that line of communication doesn't exist with ataxia. I don't know if you know anything about computer science, but it's basically in an infinite loop. The message goes to the back and then doesn't know where to go. Okay? The cerebellum is deformed. Some cerebellums are shrinking. So, and there's so many nerves attached. It's basically a miscommunication between the nerves and the muscles. So I can't move my legs. I have to, you know, my mind wants them to move, and my mind, like, look how fast Annie's moved her hands. I mean, her mind is telling her to do that. No, not with ataxia. So, but it's peripheral. So the nerves, you get a lot of numbness at night. Sleep is very difficult. Spasticity is very bad. Spasticity is that infinite loop, causes pain with the muscles. So now the many kinds of ataxia starts to come into play here, but what questions do you have before I get to the many different kinds of ataxia? Yeah.
You said that you and, was it both of your siblings presented at 13?
Yes.
Is that an average age? Is that typical?
It's typical for the type of ataxia that we have, which is spinal cerebellar ataxia, but I'm the only one that's been genetically tested. Then when I went down to Utah, the neurologist told me that that particular test was incorrect. Just from an MRI of my head and neck. So then I went up to Minnesota and tried to get it better, and they still didn't know what it was. We're trying to look for grant money from UCLA. There's other places to find out what kind of ataxia, so that I have 5 kids. They have a 50-50 chance of being a carrier. They're not going to get it like some of the SCA1s, SCA7s, you know, and that gets into the other types. But yeah, that's a long-worded question. It's good, though. It's a good question. What else? Yeah.
So given that you're still kind of researching kind of the
Yeah.
basis of your condition, it's probably hard to estimate at this point in time how many folks we're talking about that are similarly have a similar condition or the same condition.
Yeah. The only statistic I've seen, and I can give you all a flyer here, is, and I had a feeling you were going to ask something like that, but 24,000 families in the Midwest have some type of ataxia, okay, or are afflicted, you should say, by some type of ataxia. 150,000 in the U.S. So, but as a statistics teacher myself, statistics can be very misleading because of what I've been explaining to you. The symptoms are what we need to attack, and that's what the National Ataxia Foundation, which started up in Minnesota, is doing. Well, we are going local to help ease the symptoms of, we want to ease the symptoms of all of the people locally from Nebraska, from Council Bluffs. We want to have other states get on board with a local foundation to ease the symptoms for mobility devices, scooters, changes in the house, a ramp, and so on, as you all well know, mobility devices and things. So, great question, but it can be misleading. And I've looked for research on the rarity of this particular disease. Well, that's not exactly what you want to do. You want to look at the whole picture.
Well, I was going to ask kind of a question maybe a little bit related. You know, is it possible that there's folks that have been diagnosed with Parkinson's or ALS or multiple sclerosis, you know, because ataxia is not as well known, or, you know, maybe because the signs and symptoms are similar?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an easy question to answer, yes. And so we would like the National Foundation to look into that as well, which they're probably already doing. But I think that my family's particular situation can provide more information about that. You know, in England, for example, I've been on a blog with a couple people from England, and they have over 90 different types of ataxia, but for half of those haven't been diagnosed, you know, had a name to them. So it's difficult to pinpoint, why do we need a name? I mean, you have a baby, you give it a name, you know. It's okay, what kind of symptoms do you have? And that's what all the neurologists have done. But there's better ways to ease the symptoms than to maybe even find out a name. Like one lady suggested at a Nebraska Ataxia meeting on Saturday that basically this trained dog, it's a white lab, did more for her daughter because she had cardiac problems, not necessarily a particular type of ataxia, but she had all kinds of issues, but she had a, what do you call it, dogs?
Service dogs?
Service dogs. They have service dogs that are trained for balance, for heart problems, as you know. Well, this dog saved this lady's daughter's life, and she's now graduated from George Washington. They're from D.C., so.
Hey, Jim, does, you know, like some of the other movement disorder type diseases, is ataxia You mentioned doing some aquatic exercise. Is it, do neurologists prescribe exercise as a way to slow the progression, or have they found anything that seems to be
No.
consistent in that way?
No, sorry. The answer to that one is no. There's no cure. I take some medicine for the spasticity, but I'm almost maxed out on that. It's pretty bad. So I do the aquatic center 4 days a week because I like to swim and I can get stronger. If I don't swim, atrophy sets in quickly. So hypertrophy is what I'd like to do for the next 15 years, as I just got approved for disability.
What was that term you just used?
Hypertrophy.
I'm not familiar with that.
It basically, it's the opposite of atrophy.
Oh, okay.
It wakes up the muscles. So those muscles that are sleeping wake up, you know. So we got adaptive equipment at QLI that wakes people's muscles up, but keeps them moving, keeps them, and it's got a double meaning here. Our fundraiser on the 24th at Prep for the Nebraska Ataxia Foundation, it's about moving forward. It's about adapting. Look what Sam did to adapt things for me. Got me a lower chair so I could get under a smaller desk. This, you know, I can't stand up in front of you and just talk. You know, he got me a microphone. I can't hold it because of the tremors. I have to hold on to a desk, or, you know, it's about adaptations, and it's about rising above. Listen to the Chicago Bears old coach. You know, the greatest person is the person who can adapt. You adapt to that team that you're playing. And you guys adapt to everything all the time with your families. I mean, it's kind of the same idea. So that's our theme. At least that's what I said on the video. I don't know if John got it or what, but so.
I have a question. You had just to piggyback on, you had commented about that you have a fundraiser coming up, and maybe this would be a chance for you to talk about any other activities that are coming up that Nebraska Ataxia has planned.
We've only met twice, and we had some people from West Point, from Beamer, and we've talked a lot about things to ease symptoms, but no, we don't have like a bike run, you know, not yet. We're just working. See, I had my fundraiser last September, and then in the spring, Dr. Schneider, she's a radiologist, she saw my name pop up down in Florida at the National Convention because I donated a whole bunch of money to her. And she said, I got to get a hold of this guy. So she came over to my house. You know, somebody in Omaha has ataxia. Well, I don't have the kind she has. She has SCA1. It's crippling, and it's dominant. Her father had it, so she knows all about it. She gets, you know, very upset when she talks about it. But anyway, we connected and said, well, we need this local group, and then we just came up with the fundraiser. We haven't, but bike rides are in the future, I'm sure, and any other ideas would be welcomed, you know, at this particular meeting. And I'm sure you guys have plenty of ideas. And other groups do many things, but, you know, Midwest Ataxia, yeah, we'd like to get some more people involved and get the word out, so. there's a couple other kinds of ataxia. See, if I could draw, I was looking on the internet. I mean, you can Google Nebraska Ataxia or National Ataxia Foundation and learn about lots of things. I think on one of the PDFs for the National Foundation, it basically had the different types of ataxia in what's called a Venn diagram. You know, the Olympics, the circles? Well, it had 3 circles. So it had sporadic ataxia, which basically just comes and goes, sporadic. They have inherited ataxia, which is like the dominant or autosomal kind. I wish I could find that picture. And the third kind, I think, is in my scooter. These are handouts or PDFs from this website. You can go to nebraskaataxia.org or ataxia.org, but episodic ataxia, spinal cerebellar ataxia, 30 types of those. Friedreich's ataxia is one of the named ones, which if you have it when you're younger, very disabling and debilitating. Duchenne syndrome is worse, I think, than Friedreich's, but that's just a judgment on my call, if you've ever heard of Duchenne's. And Machado Joseph is another named disease, but it's SCA3. Some are dominant, some are recessive. But go to the FAQs at the national website.
Can I ask a question about, are you taking questions again?
Sure, anytime.
You mentioned a variety of other diagnoses that you have, for example, rheumatoid arthritis, and you mentioned sleeping is challenging.
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit about maybe pain management or symptom management? I know it's progressive, but how do you get through a day?
Yeah, so I'm bone to bone on my neck from genetics that's inherited from my mom from the arthritis. But the rheumatoid arthritis is managed by diclofenac, which is basically a leaf, but a little bit stronger dose. But yes, their medications, Phil Mickelson advertises a pain management kind of thing for rheumatoid arthritis. My particular arthritis is psoriatic arthritis. So I have Humira and methotrexate. How do I get through the day? After a swim, I sleep very well for 2 hours in a reclining chair. Sometimes the reclining chairs work better than a bed because of the angle. And that has to do, I think, with blood flow, but I'm not sure the spasticity isn't quite as bad. I don't eat much. I don't have an appetite anymore anyway. I mean, because I don't walk around. I mean, I used to walk around 16 hours a day. Teachers have to have 2 or 3 jobs, you know. So, but I don't know. you know, like you take it day by day, just as your was it your father or
My mother has autism.
autism? Yeah. You have to almost take it hour by hour because of some of the things that happen that are unpredictable. More so with autism, I'm sure, but I might be making it sound worse than it is, but you can get through it. You know, you have to be a fighter, and you don't have a choice. You didn't ask for this. So you adapt, and you stay in shape. You keep your cholesterol low, whether it's part of the disease or not. So I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah, I think the one thing that you mentioned too is spasticity, and you know, that for folks that deal with that understand
yeah.
how painful, how disruptive it is. You mentioned sleeping, and I would guess that spasticity actually wakes you up, you know, because
3:14 a.m. is today, yeah.
Yeah, when your legs start shaking and
Yeah, it just,
and muscles are contracting. Yeah.
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 That's it.
And I know there's a number of different potential things to help that. And I don't know if you've, you know, maybe talk about how you help to manage that a little bit.
I think the 90-degree pool is wonderful for spasticity. I have freedom in the pool. As I had tried QLI's pool, the same thing happened. I was almost able to do freestyle stroke, but that was just after I watched the Olympics with Phelps, so you know, I was a little pumped up from that. But no, they were excellent over there. And there's also a hot tub that you really don't feel the spasticity when you're in the hot tub. So, but the 2,700 milligrams a day of gabapentin, which is a nerve stimulator, that helps too. That helps me if I take it regularly.
Yeah.
You have to have equal intervals, otherwise you'll feel it, you know. So.
Hey, Jim, without going through the genetic testing, is there would a physician be able to diagnose somebody with ataxia?
It's possible, but what they're recommending is a total genome testing, which means we need my mom and dad's blood, the 3 kids, and then one who's a control who doesn't have the disease, to look for that particular gene. Now, this is where you were talking about the genetics. This is where that comes in. The faster we can find that gene, the better. As I know from a math teacher, the combinations are unthinkable, and the billions. So we're talking about pinpointing a particular gene here. So, but just to get a name, no, I want more than that. I want some kind of cure. Well, they have a balance vest that's almost able to let, if you lose your balance, if your balance is horrible, whether you have an MS or ALS or what, they have weights, and that can make you, if you practice, it's kind of like physical therapy, it can make you walk better. I think I'm beyond that, though, a vest, a body vest. What I'm thinking is, come up with a whole suit you put on that transfers those nerves and makes those communications spark. And I've had this idea for a couple of years, but You know, they have the exoskeleton at QLI, and I'm sure you've seen it other places, and I think it's been on TV, but I forgot your question.
No, you were going down the right path. Well, and really, things like the exo do require some balance, and you know, obviously you have crutches or canes to help balance you, but you know that you're right. It's not a cure, though.
Yeah.
So, if you mentioned a couple different websites, Jim, on where to find information, I think you have one of them up on the screen for the National Foundation, and then there's a Nebraska Ataxia website.
Yep.
And does that give information on if people want more information, if they want to, like you mentioned, I see a support group there.
Yep.
And you're meeting at prep.
Yeah.
Or
course.
you met at prep this last Saturday.
That was our second meeting.
Okay. And how often are you guys meeting?
Once a month. We're probably going to head up to West Point in October.
Okay, so you're moving the meeting around to...
Yeah, we're going to try to find a location that's convenient for all, not just Omaha.
Right, and that's always a challenge.
Yeah, with emails, as you guys know.
Jim, are you an established 501c3 nonprofit?
Yes.
Do you participate in Give Day events around the state, like Omaha Gives, Give Big Lincoln?
We're going
or
to
Give
start
Lincoln Day?
that.
Yeah, those would be, I think, really great
Yeah.
opportunities for you to...
They participate in Amazon Smile proceeds, things like that. It's just starting to come about because we just came up with the idea is just fresh, but it's a start. So and it's a great push, I think.
And you mentioned, Jim, you are still working because of the... Or did you just...
My last day was May 19th.
Okay, so you
and
just...
teachers get paid over the summer,
So, good idea.
I got my last paycheck August 19th.
Gotcha, okay.
And today I just got approved for Social Security disability in record time in 4 months. So that
That
means
is pretty amazing.
I was on the top of the pile. I had good attorneys from Mutual of Omaha. You know, well, they assigned attorneys from Massachusetts that got it approved. And with the forms and with the electronics, I mean, you can sign online
Yeah.
and send it back real quick. Just use the technology, use the adaptive equipment, you know, try to be positive about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, I think we have, through the information you provided, how to best find information. Is there any contact information you'd like to share if people have questions or would like to get in touch with you, or is there someone else that you recommend?
Dr. Linda Schneider is pretty busy right now trying with the fundraiser, but she's the one, she and her friend are the one that, well, all three of us kind of came up with the idea, but they've been doing all the work. Because I'm disabled, I think. But,
You're the idea guy.
Sounds like a great plan.
There's cards you can give out to friends if you like about Nebraska Ataxia. You can take as many of these as you want.
Okay.
And then you could take as many invitations for the fundraiser as you want.
Sounds good.
So
And the fundraiser is the 24th of this month?
September.
Or September 24th?
September.
At Creighton Prep.
Yeah,
And what time is the fundraiser?
it's from 6 to whenever, I
6 to
think.
question mark?
It's like a 5-course meal. I have another email and it
Okay.
I
shows
just
that.
had it.
And can they find that information on the website?
It's on this invitation and on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, or you can search Nebraska Ataxia on Facebook if you use that at all.
Sounds good.
I call it NEAT, Nebraska Ataxia. Because I see it as a gift. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to meet all of you guys, so.
Well, that's, we certainly appreciate your, I don't know if there's any other questions from the panel here, but Jim, thanks so much for coming and sharing your
You're
information,
welcome.
and you know, we appreciate your being open to coming down here, sharing your story, and we may have you come back to provide us with a follow-up and keep us posted on how the fundraiser went.
Will do.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go around the horn here, allow our members to share any announcements they may have, and we'll kind of mix it up, and we'll start with Ed on my right.
Sure. Well, my name's Ed Armstrong, and as I said at the beginning, I represent adults with physical disabilities, brain and spinal cord injuries, and I work at QLI. I don't have any announcements, but I'd like to thank Jim for coming in and welcome Joel to the commission.
Okay.
I second that. Again, I'm Wendy Hamilton, representing adults with autism spectrum disorders, and I'd like to encourage you to visit autismnebraska.org. There are many events, back-to-school events, end-of-summer events, getting youth and adults ready to transition back into the structure and the schedule of school. So visit our website. You can find lots of events on the left-hand side. And I just want to thank Jim again. I actually wrote down a quote that you said, which I think is beautiful, no matter if you've got disability in your life or not. But you said, you have to be a fighter. You don't have a choice. You adapt. So thank you very much for reminding us of that.
And I'm Mark Smith. I work at the Monroe Meyer Institute at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, focusing on intellectual and developmental disabilities. We do a lot of work pediatrically with kids, but we're really a lifespan institute. We do a lot of work in the Omaha area, but we're the University Center for Excellence on Developmental Disabilities for the state of Nebraska. I don't have any announcements. I'll probably think of it as I'm driving out of the parking garage. I do want to say thanks to Jim. That was an excellent presentation, and we need to talk some more. And to welcome Joel on his first meeting. I think you acquitted yourself very well, Joel. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
My name is Joel Cook, and I represent people with physical disabilities and mobility impairments. Again, thank you to Jim. Very, very good presentation, very enlightening. Appreciate you coming in and bringing awareness to an issue that I think needs to have people be more aware of. And thanks to all of you for the warm welcome on the committee. I look forward to serving, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Joel. Glad to have you on board. Again, Mike Masker. I am with CHI Health, a manual rehabilitation institute where we serve persons that have physical disabilities. We have a full complement of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and therapeutic rec services, as well as full inpatient and outpatient services. Just a couple things. So the week of September 19th through the 23rd is National Rehabilitation Week. I'm sure Ed will be joining in on the fun of that week. But we're going to have a full week of activities at Emmanuel. But on Thursday the 22nd, we're going to have an open house to showcase some assistive technology that we've created there, as well as just tours of our facility to allow people to see some of the great things that we're doing up on 72nd and Sorensen. And next Sunday, or this coming Sunday, I guess it would be, we have our annual water skiing event at Champions Lake, which is south of Valley. We actually have all of the slots full at the moment, but the water skiing event is for persons that are in wheelchairs, and we try to get everybody water skiing at least twice. And I think the slots are full at like 30, so it's a full day. But there will be pictures out there, and if you're interested in coming out and watching it, we can get you a map of how to get there. You definitely need a map. It's kind of off the grid a little bit, but it's on a private lake that's owned by Bud and Janet, who used to own Valley Marine. But it's an outstanding event, but just a really unique thing that is unique to our area. Also up at Emmanuel, we have monthly support groups for persons and their families that have had a spinal cord injury, an amputation, a stroke, and we have an extremely lively group for folks that have had a brain injury or their families. And very engaging, but one of the things that we hear all the time from family members and persons that have had one of those injuries or illnesses that, why didn't we know about this sooner? So we're really trying to get the awareness of those support groups out there, because as we get people together, you realize you're not alone. You're not the only one that's going through what you are, and what you're dealing with is perfectly normal. So, and if you go to our website, chihealth.com, you'll also find a full calendar of sports and leisure opportunities for persons that have disabilities. We have bocce ball starting up. Wheelchair basketball will be starting up shortly. Bowling. We had a very successful season of wheelchair softball where the Barons from Omaha won the national championship again. So I think that's 10 in the last 12 years. Woohoo! Go Barons. So it's not necessarily just our team at CHI. We team up with NWA and the PVA to put that team together. So lots of exciting things going on in Omaha for persons that have disabilities. So if you can be as active as you want to be. Kind of like Jim said, you need to get up and get going. So with that, just a reminder that our meetings are televised. So if you missed any of the riveting moments of this meeting, you can catch us each Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Cox Channel 18. And we are also on CenturyLink, and gosh dang it, Channel 69 on CenturyLink. Thanks, Sam. But you can catch all that information. We also have some videos on our website. If you go to thecityofomaha.org and get to the mayor's office, or you can Google Omaha Disabilities Commission, and that'll get you to our website. On that website, you also have all of our contact information. So please, if there are things that you want to learn about, if there's issues in the community that you think we can help to at least get you connected to resources to help resolve those issues, we definitely want you to reach out to us. And certainly having Joel on board, I think we have an additional resource to help us to look into some of those issues. So reminder that we meet on the fourth Monday of each month. We meet at 1819 Farnham in the legislative chambers. Our meetings are open to the public. We meet, again, our pre-meeting starts at 3, and our televised meeting starts at 3:30, where we have our presenters, so you certainly are welcome to join us. But obviously feel free to reach out to us via email or phone if there's things we can help you with. With that, we are adjourned, and we'll see you all next month.